Hi, I'm Helen Do, and I'm the textbook campaign coordinator for Colebrook students at the University of Colorado Boulder. A little bit about me: I'm a second year mechanical engineering student who is also first generation, low income, and Vietnamese American. So, being able to pursue and afford higher education has always been a big concern for me, which is why I decided to take on this campaign and why making sure students of all backgrounds have easier and better access to education is so important to me. First, a bit about our organization. Student Perks is a student training program that prepares college students to become future leaders by giving them support in starting and running a variety of campaigns, ranging from climate change, public health, hunger, to education and civil rights. Specifically, with our textbook campaign, we want to support the work that's already being done in Colorado for OERs and to ensure that students have access to affordable and quality materials. And we do this because we believe that all students deserve higher education and should not be burdened by its hidden costs. So last year in September of 2020, CoPERS conducted a national report with a sample of 500 college students about the impact of COVID-19 in their ability to being able to afford textbooks. And below you can read the significant figures we found, and with the persistence of the pandemic, even a year later, we expect that these statistics are much more significant than these figures currently show. But I want to know more beyond the statistics. Just exactly how have students personally struggled with accessing learning materials? And so I reached out to students on campus in the spring of this year, to hear about their thoughts on textbook costs and OERs, and I'd like to share a few of their thoughts with you all today. First, a lot of the students agreed that textbook prices are big financial barriers that can actually directly impact student success and performance. Although textbook costs are seemingly insignificant fees for one class, over time, throughout a student's whole college career, they do accumulate to big costs. And especially for low income students, these fees can prevent optimal academic success if the students can't afford it and simply have to give up their access to the materials. For Kerouac, for example, she had to do her 6 week long coursework in one third of the time in order to avoid paying $200 for a code, and it made her unable to moderately pace her learning. For Alexis, although he had already paid $300 in access codes, he had to forfeit 15% of his grade in one of his courses just because he simply couldn't afford the additional $200 for the extra access code. And for Quentin, he makes the point that's unfair for students to have to pay an additional fees when they're already paying tuition for a course, just because the student wants to be able to demonstrate their ability to learn and understand the class content. And finding more affordable alternatives, such as renting textbooks or buying used textbooks, can still be very costly to students and oftentimes very time consuming for students to seek out these alternatives. Especially with the rise of access codes during COVID and online learning, students don't really have an alternative with access codes. So if they simply can't afford the materials, they don't have access to them. For example, Beth, although she had spent numerous hours looking for alternatives, she ended up just having to buy the original required materials. And she wasted her time and ended up having to spend over $1,000 in just the first year. Fana, although she took advantage of this textbook buyback program um, on our campus, she only got $7 back from her $200 textbook. But beyond just saving students money, open textbooks can actually enrich a student's education, and they bring forth a lot of academic benefits. Not only do they break down financial barriers for students, but they allow more academic freedom because these open resources are openly licensed and adaptable. It means that professors can customize these resources to best suit their students, change their, adapt to their curriculum as needed. And because these materials are free, students have unlimited access to them, and they can have a variety of free materials at their disposal from um, different textbooks, different educational websites, demo videos that can be different learning aids for students with different learning styles. For example, Daniel found it really helpful to seek out um, additional videos and online sources to aid in his understanding of materials beyond just the required textbook. And for Connor, in the classes that he did use more open source materials or free access materials, it didn't compromise the quality of his education or what was being taught or the content of these materials, because um, they actually provided him a lot of different perspectives that really broadened his understanding and made his understanding of his the topics he was learning much more well-rounded. With the pandemic, our students have really struggled with finding access to materials and finding academic success. But this problem won't simply go away with the end of the pandemic. The pandemic really only exacerbated pre-existing issues with resource accessibility and learning efficiency for students. Students who were already struggling to afford college and their materials struggled even more during COVID. And students who had always needed extra assistance in learning struggled with finding additional resources outside of coursework and um, their remote learning environment to help them understand their courses. So really, COVID only propelled us to adopt changes a lot faster than we anticipated. And with the massive shift to online learning, it's time to reconsider different approaches to education and adapt new ways of learning for our students' benefits. And with the platform like the internet at our disposal, we have the opportunity and responsibility to provide students with easier access to higher education and provide them with a variety of learning tools by integrating more OERs into higher education. And a really important aspect to this is to consistently ask our students about their opinions on the materials and they're being provided with. Are they able to afford these materials? What's their preferred materials that they like to use? What works the best for them? If they need assistance, what other tools can they use? And with that, our educators are the leaders who will help these students. The more educated um, educators are about OER opportunities, the more likely they are to make their own OERs, endorse OERs, point students into different OER resources that these students don't have to spend this whole time, their own time, and struggle with finding these resources. They can simply be provided with these resources directly um, or directed to these sources so that these students are well aware of all of these different tools they can use and help themselves in pursuing their own education and make their understanding of their materials much more well-rounded. And so I hope you all today listening really want are compelled to be a partner in this change, whether you're an educator who's interested in writing your own OERs or integrating more OERs, or you're just promoting more OER integration to higher education. It's really important that we take this big step in making higher education more accessible for students of all backgrounds. And I hope you become a partner in this change, and I thank you for your attention today.